having heard all this caution about polling, Lenny and I want to talk a little bit about a slightly different approach that we've taken to this question. So my name's Sarah Mulley. I'm Associate Director at IPPR, and Lenny will introduce herself, but it's from ADI, and we've been working together on a project this year which has tried to apply a much more qualitative methodology to this question. So now, which button do I press? There we go. And I suppose just to give a bit of background about why we have done this work. This is an approach which IPPR has used looking at a number of other issues. So the other part of my brief is immigration, and if you think public opinion on aid is difficult, you should try the rest of my job. But we find, again, that polling sometimes only gives you a snapshot, that findings can be contradictory, and that what we need to do is get underneath the skin a little bit of what the public think. So in this piece of work, we've used a deliberative methodology, which is much more detailed. So we've taken small groups of people. We've spent 3 or 4 hours with them and given them lots of different prompts and information, and then basically you see where the discussion takes you. And we record those discussions, and then we are able afterwards to analyse both what people have said, but also the language which they have used, and the way in which they have described their own views, to try and come to a slightly, I wouldn't say a better view than polling, it's just a different perspective on public opinion, and we hope that it's a useful complement to all the data that we have from polling. And I should say, I suppose my starting point on this is that, I believe that aid is a good thing. I think we should meet our commitments. I think it works. I've worked for a long time on these issues, but I also agree that I also think that we need to bring the public with us, and it is not sustainable in the long term to have a policy which is not supported by large swathes of the voting public and the tax-paying public, because ultimately it's hard to sustain policies which are not supported. And I suppose the exam question for me is, how do you build public support? How do you secure public support? How do you build the right kinds of communications methods and narratives which actually bring the public with you? Because you have to have, we're a democracy, and ultimately people need to support these agendas. So I'm going to pass over to Lenny to talk a little bit about some of the headlines out of these workshops.